Here we have the graph of f of x. We want to look and see what f dash of x means graphically. The blue tangent has a positive gradient. This means that f dash of x is greater than naught everywhere where the function f rises. The red tangent here is negative. This means that f dash of x is smaller than 0 where the function of f is falling. The green tangent has a gradient of 0, and this happens where the function f turns or where the function f is stationary. Similarly, a third order function is also stationary, rising or falling. Where is this function rising? At the red tangents, which have a positive gradient. In other words, our function will be rising for x values smaller than a, as well as for x values larger than c. Where will the function be falling? For all of these values, in other words, values larger than a but smaller than c. This function also has two places where it is stationary. It is stationary where x is equal to a, as well as where x is equal to c. The function f of x equals minus 2x squared minus 4x plus 6 has been given, as well as the graph of this function. Determine the coordinates of the turning point. The turning point is that point which lies about here, and if we draw a tangent to this point, then the gradient of this tangent will be 0. The coordinates of this turning point we will determine by calculating f dash of x and making it equal to 0. To determine f dash of x, I differentiate f of x, and this gives us minus 4x minus 4 equals 0, and this leads to x equals minus 1. This means that when x is equal to minus 1, this graph will have a turning point. So we have the x value of the turning point, which we know is minus 1, and the corresponding y value we will find by calculating f of minus 1. The coordinates of the turning point will therefore be x as minus 1, and the corresponding y coordinate is 8. Determine the interval for which f is ascending, that means rising, and descending, which means falling. This graph is rising up to the turning point, and from the turning point to the right, the graph is falling or descending. In other words, this graph is rising or ascending for all x values up to the x coordinate of the turning point. After that, it is descending. Determine the gradient of the tangent to f at x equals minus 4. What does this mean graphically? At x equals minus 4, which is a point, say, here, I want to determine the gradient of the graph. The graph is here rising or ascending, so we should get a positive result. F dash of minus 4, we've already determined f dash of x, so to find f dash of minus 4 means we substitute the x value, minus 4, into our equation up here, and we get minus 4 times minus 4 and then minus 4, which gives us 16 minus 4, which is 12. And what does this mean? Here, where x is equal to minus 4, the gradient of f will be 12. Determine the coordinates of the point on f for which the gradient is 12. F dash of x gives us the gradient, so f dash of x we equate to 12. F dash of x is equal to minus 4x minus 4, which equals 12, and this gives us an answer of x equal to minus 4. What does this mean on the graph? Here, where x is minus 4, the gradient of the graph will be 12. We are asked for the coordinates of this point, so the coordinates will be x is equal to minus 4, and the corresponding y value will be f of minus 4. The gradient is therefore 12 at the point minus 4, 6.